Hey, composing gloves here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make these sounds. So first off, I have this sound. Then I've got it with a beat. And then I have this sound. So these are very popular sounds these days. I was actually given an example of a track, and I'm not going to list it because I spent enough time trying to nail their sound, and I decided just to make something cool along as similar lines. But I can tell you right now, it's probably done through FM synthesis for the person who requested this. Now, I'm going to show you how to make this FM patch. And the other thing that made that particular sound is those layers. These layer sounds are always so hard to remake faithfully, just because I do not layer as much as I should. So, anyways, what I settled on for this was I have these trumpets. And so, anyways, I went for aspects of sound rather than remaking that sound. Far easier to do. So, what we're gonna do here is first let's just hear the trumpet. So there's definitely a brassy element to the original sound I was given, but I'm not going to tell you about that original sound. So anyways, there's brassy sounds in here to give us that nice brassy feel. And depending on the brass sounds you get will determine, the brass sounds you have available to you when you're making the sound. You may even consider putting like an envelope, so it's like wah, 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 wah. And so in Contact, I am using two libraries. One of them you probably don't have, and that is the Spitfire Symphonic Brass Library. It's also contributing to the hall reverb using the actual miking position. So so anyways, you probably don't have that. It's just a mixer configuration over here. So I'm not going to talk too much about this library because for reasons. This one you probably do have if you have Contact, and this is just the default trumpet that comes with it. I think it sounds quite nice if we mute it. And then this is what the Spitfire sounds like. So they're just different takes on trumpets. And so I like this one. I made it a bit more dry, even though there is some reverb on it, and that just makes it a little more tight and impactful and punchy. I settled on staccato for both of them. See, staccato articulation. So we are good there. That's pretty much the extent. I did mess with the volume, and I'm setting it out to 37, but there's nothing on 37, and they're being controlled by one MIDI channel. So, and the chord I picked, I don't think it is a chord. I think it's just a bunch of octaves. No, it's a chord. Well, I guess you could consider it a power chord. It's just an A, E, and then A. So it's just the fifth. So we have a fifth. We have fifths layered. So we have octave, fifth, octave, fifth. Woohoo! So that is all that's a part of that sound. Now let's move on to like the more complicated sort of the really hard stuff. So let's come over here to this guy. Now this guy sounds like that, right? That's kind of high. And you can see my CPU is utterly freaking out. And I have maxed out my buffer. So it's 21 milliseconds, which is the max I can go. So this is a very CPU intensive sound because I did a lot of junk to it. Experimentation will do that. So I could probably make a more CPU effective patch later, but no doubt it would definitely sound different. So if I was working with a sound like this, I might write out the line I want and then record that or bounce it or do whatever, get the sound out of the processing, then just turn off all the processing, and I've got my dope sound without all that extra processing. So also, I have two delays here. So this sound is based on FM, and I determined it was probably a FM, a combination. There's a third sound in the original I was given that actually has a bass in it, a bass sound, and I did not bother to replicate that one. But I was trying to nail this sort of like interesting metallic sort of whoosh sound that's going on. It's very I discovered a few things doing this. So first off, I have FM Citrus from the ground up and Learn FM synthesis if this is utter chaos to you. But operator one, all my operators, even the modulating ones, have this sort of swoop in envelope. So it's like one, one, one. And I do that, and you can manipulate this to get a really specific feel. You want to be careful about timing and things, and the way you write your music is going to affect this as well. But this is what I settled on for my sound. So, and I also have done a great deal of experimentation with different, pitches, different waveforms, and I settled on mostly various forms of the triangle wave. And basically, they just change the overtones you get. They change your timbre because you're changing the waveform that's modulating the thing. So you get different harmonic series. So I was just sitting here like messing around. And this whole thing started as me trying to make it in one patch and then bouncing out. And then I started throwing in external stuff, which helped a great deal. And so, yeah, so let's listen to what this sound sounds like. Let's come over here and let's listen to what this sound sounds like without any of the extra processing. So we're going to turn off the processing. And there is no sound. Did I mute it? I did. So that is the dry sound with the processing. So that makes quite a large difference, but we're going to ignore that for now. So this guy is, if we turn off these, we have this. And the processing too. Whoa. Yeah, that makes sense. I was just hitting notes that I hadn't heard yet. So, all right. That's what's going on. And so we have 1 coming out. It's being modulated by 2 and 3, and 2's got this thing where 3 is modulating 2 and 4 is modulating 3 and 5 is modulating 4. And I was not going for anything specific. I did try messing with a higher modulation, a higher volume. Basically, I'm just going to call this volume just for simplicity. So I tried messing with these in more extreme settings. Did not sound that great at all. I had some ideas on ways I could probably soften it up and make it sound pretty cool, but I was like, no way, that's just going to be complicated. And so then I messed with the various ratios. I think the highest one is 7. I had a couple that were earlier at like 12 and like 14 and just sort of odder ratios to try and get more of a rich overtone spectrum. But then that's when I started feeling like, man, that's probably just a brass library of some kind. So I went and grabbed some brass instruments, and because it was not working out over on this end. So I did that, and then we have these triangle waves in various forms, and you can see I have these. Now this part you might be going, what the heck is this all about? Well, that doesn't matter because notes are only ever going to be played to get through this part of the envelope, and this is a modulating operator. So you don't even. Oh, well, you do hear this one come out actually. Now that I think about it. But anyways, I never write a note that's any longer to hear it. If we did, that's like what it sounds like. So it's not an issue as far as the volume is concerned. Now, that's the shape. That's 3.5. You can try messing with these to get some very interesting things. The fact that this is not 1 is very important for the sound. If we take this down to 1, you get that. If we take it up, so... See how much more bassy that is? And I wasn't going for that. So that's a lot less. That's a lot more bassy. So those kinds of decisions. I'm on 2. Here's 1. 1's also an interesting. So it's very, very different sound. So you could find the ratio all day long and just sit here and go like, oh, what would that sound like? What would this sound like? What would that sound like? And you could just go and go and go and go and go. So these are the ones I settled on. Da, 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 da. And this is the matrix I settled on. Like a lot of people will be, I used to explain exactly what everything is going to, but that's kind of redundant. It's like right here. So I didn't do any RM. Whoops. I didn't do, oh my gosh. I did not do any RM. And so that's that. Now I do have 2 and 3 coming out. And they just add their ratios. They come out. They're not coming out too much. On the effect side of things, I left the chorus on by default. And I messed with the, depth and speed quite a bit. That's usually the settings I touch the most in a chorus. We break out another chorus later on down the chain. But this chorus is very important. If we got rid of the effect outs, it just sounds very like, and I have an EQ going on too that's diminishing the high end. Actually, it's boosting the high end. It was diminishing it earlier, but I felt like boosting it after all the other stuff. But anyways, if you were to pump this louder, that high end might just become like sort of an ear sore to listen to. And so one thing that you can do is a chorus will often smooth that out quite a bit, as well as that like high mid range. That stuff is really piercing sometimes. And that's that. I did have a reverb in here, but I took it out, and I took it out because it was going through all of this junk, and the reverb going through all this was a bad idea. It might be cool now that I've done this because this was like in the creative process. But anyways, I took it out and I put reverbs in later, and these reverbs actually serve 2 separate purposes. So that is what that is. Now, if we come over here, now I guess I'm not sure if I showed you operator 5. Yeah, I've shown you all these things. So that's all that I did was mostly mess with envelopes, like envelopes and ratios and that. Like if you can figure that out, you're going to win the game. And so you could, I believe, get really a lot closer by manipulating around with these things. I just don't have the patience to do so. Now, on the EQ, I was considering this EQ. And if I was considering this EQ kind of important because it made some pretty drastic changes. If we give it a little bit of resonance and then you send it through all your effects, I was getting this sort of whistly sound. And it was because of where the EQ lies in the signal chain. So you hear how there's sort of more of a sine wave like popping out right there. And so I had reduced this. Just so you know. Now, if you want to know the signal flow, you can click up here. I believe it's this one, yeah. And so you can see, oh, look at, there's the signal flow. And there's the E, low, mid, high band, EQ. I believe that's the EQ. I don't believe it's there. And so you can see it coming through here. And so because of where it lies in this thing, you can, do interesting things versus having an EQ purely in post. So was it post or was it before the wave shaper? It is. So this would affect how it hits the wave shaper, which is a really powerful combo. So that's that. Now, unison. If we have unison here, we have a unison order of 4 in the, what is this, panning, and then volume, and then pitch. Yeah, I look up here a lot of the time because, yeah, these are the sub harmonics. That one's an easy one to remember. So anyways, I messed with this quite a bit. This is one of the reasons why it's so CPU intensive. Like it just eats it. Some people will say, oh, use chorus to do this. It's just not the friggin' same. It just doesn't sound the same. So I was like, I'm going to sacrifice the CPU on this one. So I went with this. This is the sound I went. And I am oversampling too without it. It's not a super big difference now, but when you're first starting out and you're doing a lot of modulation, it makes a freaking huge difference. So anyways, I'm going to leave it on for now, but if you turn that off too, that'll also lessen your load and allow you to do some pretty cool stuff. And you can also, you generally want to make sure that whatever you create at, you have your render setting at. Otherwise, when you render it, it might sound really different. And sometimes it doesn't matter at all. So that's just that. Now let's go over here to the post. Now what's interesting here is I'm going to turn on the post and I'm going to show you, I've got 2 delays. I've got this isotope dynamic link delay. I don't know, DDLY. There's a name for that. Dynamic delay processor. I don't know what the LY stands for. And maybe it's just for delay. And then we have this friggen delay, which is just here. Just a normal friggen delay. And now I'm going to turn it off. First, this is what it sounds like with the fancy delay. This is, by the way, in the works of a friggen delay 3, which I'm pretty excited about. But if we turn this one on, so some of you guys might really dig that sound instead because it's got like that metallic, like wah, wah, wah type sound. So that in context with our loop over here. It's way too low now, though. See how much lower that sounds? So we'll take this up. Whoops, I am on the wrong pattern. Click on this pattern. Go to the lead sound. Take it up. So then you would have to adjust and change things. You see, I mixed for the other one. So, and you might be saying, why did you pick a different one? Well, the friggen delay 2 uses, you can't get milliseconds out of the timing delay, but it gives you some really cool options with filters and stuff that are just pretty simple and pretty straightforward. So I go to this one simply because of how simple it is half the time. But I settled on this one because I wanted to control this in milliseconds. And you see, I settled on 4.3 millisecond time delay. And they've also got some interesting distortion. I didn't use or take advantage of the filter. I left the filter alone. And that was all that I went on there. And it's just going through 1 delay. There's actually 2 in this plugin. So anyways, the big thing is I messed with the wet and dry. Basically just these knobs up here is what I was really paying attention to and getting this time setting correct because this can change your timbre quite a bit. So I'm going to leave it right there at 4.3. Maybe we should just turn these off. So this is what it sounds like before delay. Let's go over here to this one. And then with delay. So you see it's going to filter against itself and it's going to do a variety of things. So I settled on that one. Maybe you like it without. But I wanted that sort of ringy sound that came out of it. Then the wave shaper. Now the wave shaper does a huge number of interesting things. And most of the time when I break this out, I have a pretty simple shape, but it's just like right now it's just being a tone shaper essentially. So I'm just using it to shape the tone. This will make it sound very bright and harsh, and this one gives it some more girth. This particular shape's brightening it up just a touch and giving it some more girth, but not too much. And now you can see that at this point, it's like, like this sounds, we got what we want, but it's super like edgy and bright. So we go to the chorus. Now the chorus, whoops, let's close these. Okay, here's the chorus. Now close that too. This is just a fruity chorus. That's all it is. But the chorus is an excellent choice, an excellent choice for softening sounds up. So with the chorus on, all of a sudden we get a lot more swooshy sound without it. So you see that does quite a number of things. And well, I turned the delay all the way down and the depth up in the stereo 39 degrees. And I made it a pretty slow LFO. And the cutoff frequency is really important. So you can hear exactly what it sounds like by just putting on only wet. So you only hear the signal coming out of this thing. And I'm only really touching that lower part, which is kind of an interesting deal how that affects, the rest of it. But if I turn it on, so it's a cool deal. Now I went after that. Now we could go, this is processing low frequency. We go processing high frequency. And we get that sort of a sound, but it's way more audible there. And so I was like, no way, Jose, I'll get the highs somehow else. So this is what I did with the chorus. And then after that, we went to our first delay. Now this delay is, I believe, just a default delay, but I brought the decay way down. So it sounds like it's in sort of this like small but big room, sort of an interesting deal. And then after that, we get to this one. I did actually a number of experimenting with just doing the early reflections and other things, but at the end of the day, it's just what I settled on. So the next one is a big room delay, and this is a very short decay time though. So the early reflections have been turned up above the dry signal, and the wet is down a ways. You'll also see the high cut is basically off. If I turn on, it's like, yeah. So that sort of smears out the highs for me. And now the last one. Now this is basically my compressor. So I come in here, and I've got it being sidechained pretty hard by those kicks that you heard. And I timed the kicks and, did some listening and figured out exactly where I wanted the sidechain to happen. And the thing about this is it hits the ceiling. So just by having it on, there'll be like compression. So some of the peaks will be hit. Which is a blurry sound anyway, so I'm not like super concerned about transients. So I didn't care. Next up, that's it for this sound. So now that's how I made that sound. And yeah, now we've come over here. I do have another sound layered in with this one. So we have this brassing, right? If we're gonna play the brassing. You could consider putting an EQ on that as well, but it'll be interesting because you'll have like masking and combinations and tones and all sorts of things. So it might not be an issue later on down the line. So when I'm talking about the brightness, it's still kind of in there. So I liked it, so I left it there for now. But I may do it. It's also a very different experience. Things often sound much brighter over headphones than they do over monitors, just because having air in between you and your speakers tends to absorb a lot more. So if you're going to like mix for a bigger club or whatever, the high frequency content in a particular sound, if you really mix it down, it might sound way more dull than you imagined if you were mixing on headphones. So you want to just basically, I'm not saying that don't compensate for it. Just cross-check across systems. So, go to your buddy's system, go to a friend's system. Don't just do it on headphones and call it good. And that's like, it's a project that doesn't matter too much. So now I have one more sound. This is it. That's all it is. And it is a unison. It's got pan. The pitch has been moved around in the phase. The harmonizer has been turned up. I did not mess with the shift, although I'd had in previous attempts. And so that was, I got some interesting results from there. But don't worry too much about it. I was basically going for more of a metally type vibe. And then I was like, this is supposed to be more like brass. And then it ended up sounding nothing like brass. So I did not do that. I got a Facebook message. The chorus, this is what the chorus set out. The depth, the speed. This is why it sounds sort of, that's a chorus if you didn't know what a chorus sounds like. And it's been pitched up an octave. Now, you might be wondering what notes are these guys playing, because the notes they play make a big difference. So these are low notes. Those are the high notes. And you see, actually, though the really high notes sort of get sort of ear piercing, but it's surprisingly less bright than it at first seems from lower notes. And these guys, those are cool freaking notes. If you come up here, those ones would require an EQ. So if I decided to write some low and then some high, I'd automate an EQ on and off to take out some of that high end as I was going. I do it all the time in my mixes, and it's one of the reasons why it can sound so full over here and then sound really full, but it doesn't like murder you full type of deal, because a lot of people when they're brand new, they don't compensate for like frequency changes like that, and then it just sounds really cool, and then all of a sudden your ears are bleeding at another part that's supposed to be really big and impactful, but they didn't take care of those high frequencies at that one moment, because they were like, oh, if I take care of these and this isn't going to sound as cool, and then they're like, what do I do? And the secret is just automate an EQ on and off. Okay, now that's what's going on there. So the brass, the whole deal. Now you may choose different brass. Probably the brass make the biggest difference here. We could also try experimenting with different articulations. So in this one, someone told me the secret shortcut for this. You can select all your notes, select a color. So for example, I will go to tenuto. This is only going to affect this, my very expensive brass library. It won't affect this one because I'm not using the preset for that one. So it should not affect it. And that's their, oh, you know what? It probably will affect it now. I just realized it. Staccato. No, I'm not going to stress out right now about this. It's at ED0. This thing is going to trigger stuff around D-2. Yeah, it should not be affected by this. So anyways, I'm going to take this and change the articulation of one of them to a tenuto. And all you do is you select your notes and you hit Alt-C. Bang! It changes the color of the notes to the correct MIDI channel. That blew my mind. So you see. And this one allows you to play chords and stuff. That was the part where I was like, you can't play chords with this thing. You can't. It's a bad idea. And it takes a freaking crap. Look at that. 55 CPU thing. Like, that's just not a good thing. So you cannot, it just doesn't sound that great. So you're going to be relying on brass libraries and these timbres in your layers to get a hold of that. So anyways, that's that. I hope this was what you were looking for. Subscribe, support me on Patreon, and have a blessed day.